All right, everybody, welcome back to America's Mom. I am your host, Sharona Bishop. And as exciting of times as we are living in right now, it requires a lot of discussion right now to kind of sort out what the heck is actually going on in our country. Um, I'm going to save a lot of our talking points actually for the end of our time today because our guest that we have coming on, we need to have as much time with him as possible. And then we'll cover the Supreme Court rulings at the end of our time together today. We're going to talk about some flock camera issues, though, because we have to start there. I love, love, love what I'm seeing with this total revolution against flock cameras. It's literally everywhere. It has hit social media so hard, and I hope it is hitting the politicians across the country who sold us out to the police state extremely hard. We'll talk about that in just a moment also. But as always, I want to start out first reminding all of you parents in the United States that we are here for you. In partnership with Moms for America, we have set up a national support line that is 1-833-42 Protect Kids to help support you parents, grandparents, anybody out there who is dealing with the impact of the trans cult on your child. If your child is being groomed at school through PFLAG, through GSA clubs, through Sparkles, Sprinkles, Skittles, Splash, any of those organizations whatsoever, if an adult is grooming your child into the trans cult and you need support, please call us today at 1-833-42 Protect Kid. We have actually lined up law firms that are ready to step in and assist you. We do not want to wait until your child has been taken. You all know the outcome of that story. I mean, just talking about it has gotten me into terribly hot water and a lot of problems. That trial, remember, is going to be on, apparently, it's been moved to July 30th. So we'll be dealing with a transgender male to female in Colorado on July 30th, just because we talked about it. We talked about him grooming. We talked about him taking somebody else's child. And activist judges, of course, have gotten in line to defend that kind of behavior because they granted the emergency order. So this line is here for people like that who are being attacked by the trans cult. You know they are going after your children. You know they are not stopping. It does not matter if the SCOTUS has ruled that boys can't be in girls' sports. It doesn't matter that this administration has taken a hard, hard stance against trans ideology. It's their religion, it's a cult. And apparently, they're willing to go to prison for it. So if you are someone who has been impacted, if your child, if you're seeing the signs and don't ignore them, do not ignore what you see happening with your child and think it's just a phase and they're going to get over it. These people are serious. They are very aggressive. They will not stop until they have completely converted and mutilated your child. Take it serious. 1-833-42 Protect Kid. Again, this is in partnership America's Mom with Moms for America, an incredible organization that has just gone international actually with Moms for Freedom World and are doing an absolutely amazing job supporting the family, supporting mothers, and of course, actively working against this trans ideology. So thank you guys. And just know that is there for you. And we will definitely be giving you the support that you need. So I want to dive into flock cameras for just a second before we bring our guest on, because it really is one of the biggest violations of our privacy and of our personal liberties. I have to laugh. We're going to share a little video with you. I had to laugh so hard because typical government employee, you're going to spot it like halfway through the video. So, like about a minute in, typical government employee looking for an easier way to do his job. And not because it makes the public more safe. No, just because he's lazy. So, we're going to hash this out in just a moment here. I just want you to be watching for that. Lifetime government employees, you can spot them usually pretty accurately. And sorry for those of you who are great out there, but my husband is a recovering lifetime government employee and he has told me otherwise. So there you go. Personal story. Truly, this is a crazy story. So in Cleveland, we had the community vote that flock cameras are going down. They had about 100 cameras that were voted out and they were supposed to be gone last month. Out, gone, bye. But instead, the flock camera company has said, we'll just leave the cameras up for free right now. We won't even charge you while you sort this out and, like, come to your senses and decide to continue policing your people. Think I'm joking? Take a listen.
Contract ended, but if you thought the cameras went dark, they didn't. They're not off.
Correct. They're still operational, at minimum until July 15th, when City Council is set to meet again to discuss how they want to proceed.
So what does that mean?
Essentially, they're operable. We're still able to use them should we need them to keep the public safe.
Last Friday, Cleveland City Council President Blaine Griffin sent this memo to Safety Committee Chair Mike Polensek to schedule a second hearing for a, quote, more thorough review and discussion.
It's ridiculous and it's incredibly disappointing.
Community activist Bryn Adams with Flock Knows says the city should instead invest in root causes of crime.
I think if the police department comes back with some cherry-picked anecdotal evidence about specific cases they've closed, that will still not be compelling to me because it's still not making the city safer.
I think it's always a challenge because if law enforcement is telling you that this is a valuable tool and it's providing value to us, then you're reluctant to let it go away.
CSU law professor Jonathan Whitmer Rich says figuring out what reduces crime is very complicated.
To say that this technology, hasn't been proven to do that yet, well, it's hard to prove exactly what is, reducing crime. And I think council needs to look seriously at what the data shows, how this is being used, but I wouldn't rule it out of hand as having, no benefit.
Police pointed to its technology, including the license plate readers, for an arrest here on Clark Avenue of the guy accused of shooting 2 people with a blow dart.
I think it's PR spin. I think, we know that in other places in the country, Flock has invested heavily in crisis management.
In their own news release, police said one of the victims knew the suspect. So did the cameras really make a difference in catching the guy a day later? Police say yes, as one of several tech tools.
Yeah, we could have definitely gone old school. And old school means it could have taken us weeks. So we could have had a suspect out there for weeks.
All right. Thank you. I'm so glad it ended right then because that is my point I've been making. Stop being lazy. These departments are paid unbelievable amounts of money to do police work. Go figure it out. We're not going to continue to subject ourselves to your over policing in order to make your jobs easier. There's really just very little to no evidence that that's what's going on. So I just want to point out something. John Whitmer Rich, sorry, I think I called him a government employee. Clearly he is tenured at a university. Same difference. Sorry about that. And I'm also curious why he feels he needs to even defend the use of flock cameras. That's fascinating. As I'm learning, there's generally a percentage in there somewhere. We'll have to find out. But just to remind you, this is the recap on this whole story. So if this is happening in Cleveland, where the people voted it out with the city council, you're going to need to be diligent in your communities. If they said these things are coming down, be diligent because the contract has expired, right? The elected body said no. Nobody reauthorized these flock cameras to stay on or for the contract to be renewed. Flock will not say what it is doing with the data, but the cameras are still on. They're still being used by police. And then also remember too, they cannot justify, okay, they caught a guy who shot a guy with a blow dart, but the victim knew the guy who shot him with the blow dart. I'm sure it was the flock cameras that saved the day. This is what we're dealing with, America. Please stay diligent. And you guys are just doing an absolutely phenomenal job. dflock.org. Go check it out to figure out if you have flock cameras in your backyard. And as you just saw, that is a citizen. That's a mother who is taking charge and leading this charge in Cleveland, Ohio to stop the use of flock cameras. You are the hero you're looking for. Absolutely fantastic job. All right, so staying diligent on those ends. We've got some crazy stuff going on, and whenever it gets crazy in Colorado, then I know it's coming for everywhere else. It's escalating big time. Colorado is escalating wildly, and the reason it matters so much is because Jared Polis, of course, is one of the loudest voices for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which the Trump administration, by the way, is beginning to take extremely serious. I think it should have been taken serious, a little bit ago, but here we are, sounding the alarm. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is going to be implemented at 270 votes. It's currently sitting at around 242, I believe, right now, and gaining. I had some State Department people actually ask me for more information on that and to start researching that because they were deeply concerned and didn't realize they hadn't heard about it. Didn't realize that the Virginia governor, Abigail, literally implemented it as soon as she took office. It was one of the first things she did on day one was to become a part of that interstate compact. And remember what that means is that once they've reached 270 electorates, then they're going to let the popular vote take over. Okay. So Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, has been one of the most influential voices in that effort. It is illegal. From my reading of the Constitution and from other people who actually really do know, who are constitutional attorneys, have said you cannot do that. States cannot they not conspire together to overthrow the federal government, which is essentially what will happen with that compact. They will overthrow the Electoral College. Okay. So when I'm looking at Colorado, they had primaries last night. It was crazy. It was absolutely out of control. Probably no better commentator anywhere on the internet than Nick Rogers on what is going on with Colorado and connecting the dots on the war between the Democrats and the Democrat socialists who are actually just communists in disguise. Okay, they're not even disguise. They're not even in disguise. So I asked Nick this morning. I was, reading all the news, looking at all the headlines from last night, all the craziness. I asked him to come on today to talk to us about what's going on in Colorado, because again, as Colorado goes, so goes the rest of the country, particularly in the blue states. If you are in a blue state, this is your future. This is what it's going to look like for you. And right now in Colorado, just as we saw in the United Kingdom, everybody's leaving. Everybody of any consequence is leaving. Politaire, am I saying that right? Am I saying that
Palantir.
right? Palantir, I always say it wrong. Palantir has just left Colorado. And they were having a great deal. They had a great gig going on there with their human trafficking thing they were doing. Okay. They're even gone. Big tech companies have left. Over 100 companies have left just this past year alone. It's very similar numbers to the UK. If you're a billionaire, if you're a millionaire, you have no reason to stay in Colorado because you're getting taxed to absolute death. If you're looking at being a productive person, starting a business, making anywhere over 100,000 a year, you're going to be taxed into oblivion. It's the nature of what Polis has implemented in the state of Colorado, I believe, to drive out the population and to replace it with an illegal population for servitude. Because I think they're all a bunch of racists at heart. But nobody understands exactly what's going on in Colorado. I don't think, or has a better grip on it than Nick Rogers, and he joins us today on America's Mom. Nick, thank you so much for jumping in with us today. It was, to say it was shocking and appalling last night. Diane DeGette, the congresswoman from District 1, is not exactly a moderate. And she got
No.
she got it handed to her last night.
Sean
by this
Camacho
crazy
got his
Congress.
ass handed to him too, and he was considered a progressive liberal. And he got his ass handed to him by a communist as well. Normally I'm wearing a collared shirt, but today I'm wearing my Wolverines t-shirt, in lieu of the 1984 movie Red Dawn, where the patriots of Colorado are fighting off the invading forces of communism. And this shirt could not be better placed than what's going on today. It is a very dark day in Colorado's history, waking up to these election results. And I did a video the other day about the DSA takeover of the Democrat Party of Colorado, and if they got a clean sweep, what it would mean for this state and for the nation. And it's literally going to be changing the fabric of this state and this nation. Now, thankfully, one of the worst communist politicians that was running was Julie Gonzalez against U.S. Hickenlooper, John Hickenlooper, former governor. And she was the poster child for the DSA. She would have been the most progressive, U.S. representative in the U.S. Senate the nation has ever seen. And luckily she lost to John Hickenlooper last night. However, a lot of her cohorts that were DSA sponsored, and folks, DSA is the Democrat Socialists of America, but don't let that name fool you. It means the Communist Party. The Denver Democrat Socialists of America group has been absorbing all of the Colorado communist parties now for about a decade, not quite a full decade, but they've been absorbing it. I've been talking to people that are part of that affiliation, and they said they're absorbing the communist parties because they are communists, but they have found they could get more people to come on board and join the Democrat Socialists of America, calling themselves Democrat Socialists versus just outright communists, even though they are full-blown communists. So that's what we're dealing with here in Colorado. And there was a handful of Democrat Socialists of America backed candidates that won last night. Probably the craziest one is Milat Kiros, who beat Diana D, who you were just talking about. And folks, she's nuts.
Can we play that first couple minutes of her speech? You guys,
I'm working on that. The video is not playing correctly.
All right. Well,
no problem.
All right. So I just
Yes.
want to point out, communism is not new in this world. It might feel new to you here in the United States, but we did pass a law, right? The Communist Control Act in 1954 through the McCarthy era, it was called McCarthyism, to make it illegal to be communist. And Sharona, we could talk about this a little bit, but in 1969, there was, what was that Supreme Court? It was Ohio v. What was it?
Brandenburg.
Brandenburg, which the Supreme Court came out and said, okay, all right, technically you could be a communist, you could be a fascist, you could be a socialist in the United States because it's protected under the free speech, as long as that speech is not going to incite violence. But realistically, people becoming communist in the United States is going to incite violence. From my research, we've seen roughly, depending on the size of the nation, we've seen 41 nations in the history of the world become communists. Guess how many nations have become communist through a Democrat elected process without bloodshed?
I'm going to say barely.
One. The tiny little nation of San Marino is the only sovereign country in history to democratically elect a communist coalition into power completely without violence or loss of life. However, I got notes over here, so I'm sorry because I wanted to come prepared for you today. Yes. A few nations attempted to vote in Marxism or communism governments peacefully, but the transitions were cut short by immediate bloody backlashes, which was Chile and Czechoslovakia. Chile in 1970, Czechoslovakia in 1946. This is an important note because, folks, this is where we will land as this Communist Party grows if we do not stop it. This is where we're headed to. Virtually all historical communist states, roughly 40 dissolved or fractured countries are counted as well in that 40, were established through either a bloody domestic revolution of Marxism or communism or a hostile political military takeover. Genuine democratic transition to communism are almost non-existent in the world history, making coercive or violent transitions the definitive norm. And that is actually from history.com. That is a direct quote from history.com. America, New York City was just a taste of the DSA party taking control over the nation's largest city. Colorado is the canary in the coal mine that the Democrat Socialists of America, aka Communist Party, can take over a full state. We need to all be taking it very, very close, or paying very, very close attention to what just happened in Colorado, because we are headed towards a bloody revolution or a bloody hostile takeover. There is no peaceful transition into communism, and we are headed this direction.
Let's talk about these two for just a moment. Diane DeGette, who I have absolutely been no fan of, she is no moderate in any form or fashion. Okay, she maybe in her heart of hearts, but the Democrat Party has definitely pushed this liberal tone for the last 5 years, and she seems to have willingly joined it. It appears to me from the videos that I've seen and the commentary from the Democrats who are on her account that it was her support for Israel, or maybe not standing up for Palestine. I'm not sure how she's dissecting that. She hasn't been given an opportunity really to say what her perspective was. That is essentially what killed her campaign, is that she would not stand up for Palestine. But notoriously, Democrats have always been very supportive of Israel. I mean, most Jews are Democrats, by the way. And so what was it that made Diane or this other candidate so attractive compared to Diane DeGette? I mean, Diane votes exactly the way Democrats would want her to vote. She's been fully supportive of mutilation of children. She's wanted to, hang Tina Peters. She has supported, humiliating President Trump and suing him every which way to Sunday and seeing him in prison. I'm sure she's probably made comments about him being publicly executed as well. Allegedly, I'll just say that, sorry. But she's not a moderate. So
No.
What is it that was so attractive about this other person?
She is establishment, and she is big money policies, is what it is. That's the whole reason why, like Michael Bennet, right? He was the first U.S. senator to lose a race in a situation like this since 2010. Lost last night to Phil Weiser, because Michael Bennet is establishment and big money. Michael Bloomberg dropped $5 million of his own money into the Michael Bennet campaign. Okay.
And I didn't even realize that yet.
Yes. Yeah. It's
breaking.
It's breaking. Yeah. So, and the crazy part about that is Michael Bloomberg, the billionaire anti-gun advocate from New York City, does not He does not place bets on losing horses, and he dropped $5 million of his own money into the Michael Bennett campaign, and poof, it's gone, right?
Make it happen for Bennett last night, huh?
I
Wow.
I know. I was, I made a post on X saying I hope Jenna Griswold rigs the election and does what she does best against all the DSA candidates. But boy, she sure won handedly, which is also a scary sign here in Colorado. Granted, Jenna Griswold was not endorsed by the Democrat Socialists of America. That's kind of crazy that she's so evil that even the DSA won't endorse her. The Communist Party. She is that type of evil.
So how did she do in I didn't see her race last
Oh,
night
she
either.
got like 45% of the vote out of the 4 candidates running. So, but the scary thing is if we're going to talk shop here, because I really do not like Jenna Griswold and I really do not like Phil Weiser, and those two candidates actually being the winner of last night's primary is making my family and I say, okay, it's time to pull chalks and leave Colorado. But a lot of the GOP insiders that I was talking with were saying that realistically, as far as high level, elections go that are maybe we could win, maybe we couldn't win, the attorney general one was the preferred or the actual race that a lot of the GOP insiders said we can flip this seat. We can't flip this seat now. If you look at the total number of votes that came in for the Democrat attorney general candidates last night, 780,000 votes as of right now with the current vote count. If you look at the total number of votes that came in for the 2 Republican candidates, 428,000 votes. This year was historically bad for the Republican Party for picking up unaffiliated votes. The last stat that I saw yesterday from statisticians said that the unaffiliated votes favored Democrats 2.3 to 1 versus Republicans. So the unaffiliated voter base is shifting from a more neutral voter base that you could potentially say, hey, we're going to get a good amount of Republican votes, good amount of Democrat votes, to a majority, super majority Democrat voter base. But there's a lot of speculation as to what happened with that too.
I am curious about that. What do you think if I was head of the GOP in Colorado, I would be running commercials 24/7 on the mutilation of children supported by the Democrat Party. I would be having detransitioners doing commercials 24/7 on what the Democrats did to them, the abuse of children. I mean, it's really very simple. So what's wrong? What is this a failure on the GOP? I mean, Britta Horn was at the helm doing a horrendous job and then abandoned the seat, of course, and now is running Trump's 250. Somebody needs to fire her, by the way. Like, I've put in my 2 cents about that. She is so
Oh, Britta
unbelievably
Horn resigned.
incompetent.
She's gone now. She
Yeah,
just
but
recently
I
walked
mean,
away. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so what preparation was there to really support and get out the vote for the
Zero.
Republicans? I mean, what is the problem here from where you're sitting?
Oh, well, so there's a couple of problems here. One is the Colorado GOP was taken over by establishment Republicans that did backdoor deals with Democrats that allowed them to do illegal biddings, right? There's a lot of established Republicans that are part of the political elite here in Colorado that have made some really seedy deals and done some really seedy things. But because they've done these backdoor deals with the Democrats, they're not being prosecuted for it. I'll spill the tea with you later on that because I don't want to get a defamation lawsuit for facts that I have against one of our current running candidates. I actually have the paperwork showing, but they've done these things. The Democrats know about it, but they don't prosecute them because the establishment Republicans have made deals with the Democrats to allow them to have control. Now, that is with the establishment Democrats. And I think Britta Horn and the other GOP chairs that have been part of the establishment GOP here have completely bankrupted. It's not think. I know they have completely bankrupted the Colorado GOP. Britta Horn literally was a defendant in a case against herself, Britta Horn, because of the way that the Colorado GOP was being run. There were large Republican states that said, hey, we want to help out Colorado. But due to the fact that the Colorado GOP is in shambles and there's no real leadership, we aren't going to donate to it. The National Republican Convention said Colorado's a write-off because there's no real good leadership. It's such a fractured group. They don't know how to handle their money. We're not going to invest in Colorado because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of investment because the turnout's not going to be there because the Colorado GOP doesn't know how to run itself and actually advertise itself. The Washington Post published an article several months ago saying this is the year that the Colorado GOP blows their chance to take back the state. And the author was 100% right. He was a liberal journalist writing for one of the most liberal publications and actually broke down how the Colorado populace is ready to elect Republican candidates again in the Centennial State. But the Colorado GOP is the reason why it is not going to happen. And sadly, it looks like we were hoping, at the end of last year for a small red wave going into November. It looks like it's going to end up being another blue wave in November because the Colorado GOP just doesn't know how to brand itself, market itself, and advertise good candidates. And the last thing, and I'll finish on with this, is I do a lot of stuff on YouTube. I get a lot of political advertisements on my videos, and the amount of comments that I get from my viewers saying it is 10 to 1 Democrat advertisements for politicians in Colorado versus Republican politician advertisements here in Colorado on your videos.
Wow. On your videos.
My videos.
Oh, I mean, Act Blue is alive and well. Act Blue is doing a great job, did a great job for Jenna Griswold. I am actually extremely impressed. As unlikable and actually disturbing and psychotic looking as she is, and
Right.
her past actions. I mean, what a sweep. Actually, against a couple of really good candidates.
Yeah.
They're doing a great job. Act Blue is really in it. I think Act Blue is actually under investigation right now. So, Cash, if we can expedite that, I think we're going to need to do that for the November elections. If there is some things going on.
Did you see the latest stats of the Soros family for these primary
No.
elections?
No.
So between George and his son Alex, over $100 million were jumped into the Democrat primaries here in the United States so far for this year.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. They run Moldova and they run Ukraine and they've tried to run Romania. I don't think that's going as well for them anymore as it was. I'm not sure though. It's kind of back and forth. And they're not shy about it.
Right.
They're not shy about saying that they get involved in other countries and tip the elections and tip the scales there. In Texas, Alex was trying very, very hard to insert himself in Tarrant County down here in the Houston area and was driven out of there. So, Paxton has set up some reforms here in the state of Texas
Good.
to prevent that kind of stuff from happening in Texas, but we'll see. We're getting another attorney general who is actually Ken Paxton on steroids. So I'm extremely excited to see what's going to happen there. Red states need to protect themselves. We have the obvious things happening. I want to come back to the communism point that you're making. These people are calling themselves Democrat socialists. They're taking over the most prominent and the most beautiful places in America. So New York City, Colorado, California, and they're turning them into hellholes.
Right.
I do want to show this video of the candidate that beat out Diane DeGette, the Democrat from Congressional District 1. And just to remind everybody, she is no moderate. Diane DeGette was not a moderate. She is very left. And she was completely destroyed last night by this young 29-year-old Democrat socialist. Michael, if you're ready, let's just play a couple minutes of the speech. It's horrible on the ears. I apologize. Trigger warning. Here you go.
I'm Maylock Heroes, and tonight, this victory belongs to every single one of you. Denver voters of all ages, of all races, of all religions sent a clear message. We will not wait. We will not wait to take the fight to Donald Trump and the oligarchy. We will not wait. We will not wait to abolish ICE and pass Medicare for all. We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and AIPAC. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
psycho.
I mean, she's from Ethiopia. She's born in Ethiopia. I have no understanding yet of her citizenship and how she acquired it.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, I suppose it doesn't in America anymore, right? I mean,
No, it doesn't.
nobody's enforcing those laws. She is a communist. And her first directive to go after President Trump, it's
Right.
popular.
So, and this is the thing. All right. I'm gonna just touch on this. If you know what communism is, you understand there's like a certain amount of pillars of communism. It's changed with the amount of numbers and their acceptance, of hey, we'll now accept gays, or now we won't accept gays, and certain things have changed with Marxism and cultural Marxism. But the root of communism has always had certain pillars that they uphold in order for you to be able to call yourself a communist or a Marxist. There's the exact same thing with the DSA party. They have like the pillars of the Democrat Socialists of America. It is modeled after Marxism because it actually is Marxism. And they won't allow you to be considered a DSA candidate if you're not willing to condemn Israel and promote Palestine. There has to be a hatred there of the Jewish state, which also makes you wonder why and who then is pushing this cultural Marxism
Mhm.
if you have to openly say that you hate Israel, right? And I'm not
Mhm.
100% pro-Israel. I'm Jewish on my mother's side, so maternally it makes me part Jewish, or it makes me Jewish even though I'm not practicing. I'm a Christian. But the fact that one of the pillars of the Democrat Socialists of America is that you have to hate Israel is a very
Mhm.
suspicious thing to me. It's a very, very
Anti.
suspicious thing. Yeah,
It's
or
anti,
Israel. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to hate Israel.
Is there any other countries they want us to hate in there? It's very interesting.
Right. Well, that's one
It
of the
is very
reasons why the
interesting.
Democrat Socialists of America party didn't outright support Phil Weiser, is because Phil Weiser, the new Democrat primary candidate, who is a communist, he is a communist, but he did not get the DSA endorsement because he would not speak ill of Israel because he's Jewish himself.
I was going to say he's a Jew.
Yeah, he's a Jew himself. Yeah,
He's not going to
which
denounce his own self. What's he supposed to do?
I mean, I guess Bernie Sanders does. Bernie Sanders is up there holding hands with
Yeah.
Zoran Mondani in New York City, but that's because
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders loves his money and his fame more than he actually loves his faith.
And he did endorse Malay too. I mean, he has endorsed this woman and is
Yes.
supporting her actively.
100%. 100%.
Mhm.
Now, we did lose a DSA candidate to Jenna Griswold, which is kind of interesting there. But,
He was, I will say he's wildly unattractive though, and you can never underestimate the power of appearance. I mean,
100%. Yeah.
if we're going back, this is my favorite part. Fashion in politics is one of my favorite things. It really is. Fashion and appearance, all these things that we just know to be facts. They, very unattractive. And this young woman, I mean,
She's a good
for
looker.
all appearances,
She's a good
yeah,
looker. That's the it's
can't be
it's
that bad.
we
Pretty.
are old enough, right? It's like when they transition from radio to MTV, right? And the very first song that they played was the Muggles, radio killed the video, or video killed the
Yeah,
radio
yeah,
star.
killed the radio star. Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, once music television was introduced, it really degraded the quality of music, because before MTV was like the end of the era of arena rock and really, really good music, where the musicians were ugly as sin, but they were really talented at what they do. And we've kind of gone from that with the Democrat Party, where you had people that looked like Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, a whole handful of hags looking type
I
women.
advocate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But now the Democrat Socialists of America party, which is the new Democrat Party, it is. Let's not kid ourselves. It's the new Democrat Party, has realized that sex sells. Right. And we've gone from, Steve Perry with Journey singing a great ballad up on stage to, She's My Cherry Pie with the hot chick on the hood of, a Yugo with the hammer and sickle painted on it. And so that's where we're at now.
And it's wild times, right? It
Yeah.
is really wild times. So it is interesting. I want to bring this to your attention. I think, and
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk about it. I could talk about, who knows?
Mhm.
Us and our 100 people watching right now, you'll know the inside scoop. So last week I'm in DC, last week, and I start hearing these rumors flying about the 28 election. And I'm sure you can guess what they were. that the institutionalists, the establishment Democrats, are pissed off, as you have said, about the takeover by the socialist Democrats, by the wokeism, the trans ideology. I mean, one of my biggest surprises ever was being on the phone with Dennis Kucinich, and 2.5 years ago now, and discussing this whole issue of mutilation of children and how they were completely opposed, like just flagrantly in opposition to this move towards trans ideology and the destruction of children. Okay, and Dennis Kucinich is an establishment Democrat. I mean, he was Speaker of the House at one time. This guy is the go-to for Democrats, period, in the past. And he was advising Bobby Kennedy, and I think probably still is an advisor now. And they were very, very upset about the direction of the Democrat Party. So I'm there this week, and I'm listening, and I'm hearing 28 duo. I'm hearing Bobby's not out. I'm hearing Bobby's going to run as a Democrat and try to restore the original Democrat Party. But keeping in mind, as much as I love what Bobby Kennedy has done for health and wellness and all of that, I'm so on board. I'm 100% supportive of all of that. He is a Democrat, and Democrats still have, they still think government is the solution. That's what's gotten them into this mess with communist Democrats. They still believe that life is, expendable. They believe in abortion at any part at any time. I mean, that's just a fact. And I think one of the most destructive policies Democrats tend to have is, if you don't agree with me, we will go to war with you.
Yeah.
And so the ticket, from my understanding right now, is going to be a Kennedy Gabbard ticket for 28 for the Democrat Party.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. They're going to have the Democrats, the DNC is going to have to do something against the DSA, because one of the DSA spokesmen, one of the people that is like the top DSA spokesman, recently came out and said, we want you all to know that we view the Democrat Party of America to be an enemy just as much as the Republican Party of America. They do not, the Democrat Socialists of America do not view themselves as Democrats. They are a new party that is actually gaining traction, in the sense of the way that when the Whig Party died and then we got Republicans from that, this is how the Democrat Party is dying and the DSA is being born. They do not view themselves as Democrats. They hate career politicians. They hate big money in politics. They're a very strong grassroots effort, or the illusion of a grassroots effort, because there are dark money billionaires pumping money into the Democrat Socialists of America. They are the political wing of Antifa, which is a terrorist organization, right? And what people need to realize is when the Democrats, the old Democrats, if they would say, like you mentioned, if you don't agree with me, I will go to war with you. They are talking about making your life a living hell. And they will
Jamie Raskins.
Absolutely. They will tie you up in lawsuits. They will media shame you. They will dox you. With the DSA, when they say we will make your life a living hell, they are talking about the fact they will murder you. They will indoctrinate your children. This is the big thing. I did a video about this the other day, is that the way that we stop communism in America is through stopping the funding of student loans to higher education institutions that are indoctrinating our youth with communistic mentalities to want to overthrow the governance of America and strip away what makes America great: free market capitalism. That is what is being taught. The government holds 92% of all student debt. Out of the $1.87 trillion in student debt, the government holds $1.69 trillion of that debt waiting to be paid back. If the U.S. government just said, fine, we will issue student loans to you, but if you are going to a higher education institution that is teaching you to hate America and how to overthrow our government, I looked into it. There are multiple Supreme Court rulings that says the United States government is not obligated to provide funding to organizations or institutions that are trying to overthrow the U.S. government. You don't have to give somebody money in order to allow them to be able to overthrow you. That's what the Supreme Court said. And that would be the way to stop communism, because a lot of the Democrat Socialists of America are the educated youth that are coming out with crippling debt, $250,000 of debt for student loans. The job markets for what they're looking for sucks because they're all a whole bunch of pansies that only want to work as CEOs in a white collar market. And none of them want to get their hand dirty or start at the bottom and work their way up. And they want to live in lavish cities that are incredibly competitive and unaffordable. And so our youth are going through education systems. Their professors are communists, teaching them under the protection of the First Amendment to hate the First Amendment, to hate the Second Amendment, to hate the American ideals. And they're telling these kids, it's not your fault that you took on a $250,000 loan to go to get educated. It's the government's fault for not giving you free education. It's the government's fault for not giving you free housing in the city you want to live in, free food, free drinks, free alcohol, free vacations. It's the government's fault for not giving you this. And these children aren't being taught how economies work. And they just come out brainwashed thinking, I hate the government because the government isn't giving me all these things for free, where realistically they don't understand how it works. And it's radicalizing the youth. That's why we saw Charlie Kirk assassinated. That's why we've seen the trans Tifa people doing all the mass shootings recently in the past 4 or 5 years. We're seeing more riots. We're seeing the ICE attacks with the people attacking ICE. This is the Antifa, the military wing of DSA is attacking people, and they are being indoctrinated.
You just heard Malay say that she is going to tear down ICE. She's going to eviscerate ICE. She's going to eviscerate President Trump. You're exactly spot on. And here's the reality, unfortunately, that our youth do not know, that this generation does not understand. And I hold some blame too with people like Tucker Carlson, who are advocating this message as well. And by the way, he just left the Republican Party, so whatever, fine to be independent, that's fine. But there is this narrative, Nick, that is really bothering me. Like, I don't know if other people just don't get it, that when you're poor and you just come from like a regular household, you have to work a lot when you're young because your parents don't have your college fund provided for you. Like, I'm so confused. It was always understood. I don't know. I feel like I grew up in a really like regular life here in America. I realized I was born in the 80s, but I worked 4 jobs.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any value. And just because you get a degree, I mean, my husband's a super hyper educated one. And even then I've watched the struggle there, because you still have to have value. You still have to have a skill set. And just getting a piece of paper saying you attended classes does not mean you all of a sudden bring value to the marketplace. So it's confusing to me to watch people like Tucker, people like Malay, I mean, this movement towards this, I would say, socialism light on Tucker's side. I don't like his narrative on the opportunities of America. I do not, because I've grown up in the same exact country, but he grew up with a silver spoon. So he didn't realize that the majority of American children started working at 15 because that's what you do.
Right.
Like, I just don't, I'm very confused about this. Like, people who didn't have a normal life, I feel really bad for them. Like, I'm sure you worked a ton and then you went into the military.
Yeah. I would say my family was middle upper class, right? When I was raised, I was middle upper class. I graduated from a public school. I had to pay for half my first year of college out of my own pocket. My parents helped me out with the other thing. And then I got into a whole bunch of bad life choices and ended up becoming homeless and had to work my way out of that type of position, join the military, got my college education, got an associate's degree, then a bachelor's degree, then a master's degree while I was in the military. While I was in the military, I bought the house that I'm sitting in right now. After that, I got out, became a college professor, and then I became a program manager and then a senior program manager. I have a wife and 2 beautiful kids, and I have worked from the very bottom all the way up the ladder in this American dream. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a billionaire, but I'll tell you what, there's no other nation where I could have fallen this hard and made such bad decisions in my life. And then, fast forward a little over a decade and I'm at where I'm at today because of the American dream. And the crazy part about this is that struggle that I went through is why I am the way that I am today. None of this was given to me.
Yes.
And and as bad as the decisions were that I made in my life, I wouldn't change any of them because I wouldn't be the man I am today without those hard life lessons that I had to go through. And the fact that these kids are being indoctrinated to think that you should just be able to walk out of college and enjoy the life that I'm enjoying right now for doing nothing shows the ignorance of our higher education system. I said two things that our public school systems should have kids understanding when they graduate from high school is one, can you balance a checkbook? And two, do you understand the detriments of socialism and communism and how much destruction and death that it's caused in this world in the history of those two forms of governance? If you don't understand those two things, you should not get a high school diploma. Granted, there's other things, I think civics, economics, auto mechanics, basic type of things should be taught, mathematics, reading, writing, arithmetic, the things that made America great with our education system. But those two big things, can you
Those are
balance a checkbook?
foundational.
Yeah. Can you
Mhm.
balance a checkbook? And do you understand the detriment and destruction of a collectivism type mentality and governance? If you don't, then we failed you in public education. And then that way you could go forth into a higher education system. And when your professor, your sociology, queer studies, basket weaving professor is telling you that, hey, the government should give you everything for free, then you should be able to say, that's not how you balance a checkbook. Those goods and services you're talking about giving to us for free cost, which means that the government is having to pay for this, which means that there are people working to provide these things to you for free that need to be paid by the government. And then also when they start espousing how free market capitalism in the United States is a horrible nation, the worst nation the globe's ever seen, that your student or your child would be able to look at that professor and say, you're an idiot. And I'll explain to you why America is the best nation that's not just existing right now, but in the history of this world. And if we don't fight to keep it, we're going to lose it.
Preach. Preach. That's it right there. That's the soul of our country. And it is, God, it's just so critical right now
It is,
that people
Sharona.
wake up. They
Yeah,
really, I mean, oof.
I would say this, and this is my two little bits of advice to you right now. Okay. If you're living in Colorado and you have two brain cells that are working, that function, take notice of what just happened with our primary elections and take heed, because look at what is happening in New York City. Look at what is happening in California. Colorado is the canary on the coal mine. I have been saying the globalist communists wanted a test bed to see if they could take an affluent, well-off economy and state and turn it into communism to see how far they could push the people of that location until they are willing to break or until they could get the virus to spread into the rest of the nation. Everybody needs to take heed on what's going in Colorado. I'm going to be honest with you. I love this state. I've lived here on and off since 2001. My wife was born here. My kids were born here. We are looking at other states right now. And my advice to you would be do the same and prepare. Because when the communist revolution happens, whether it starts in Colorado, New York, or California, it will be bloody. Prepare yourself. Study history. Go to history.com. Watch the History Channel on communism. The fact that there's been roughly 41 nations that have adopted communism and only one has done it through peaceful, democratically elected processes, and the other 40 was either through bloody revolution or a hostile militaristic takeover. That is where we will be headed. We will not be going peacefully. It will be a bloody revolution, and there will be millions of people that die. So I tell the federal government too, get off your asses and do something about this, because if you don't, this bloodshed that's going to be happening in the future is on you.
Nick Rogers, Big Timber Lodge, go follow him. Common sense and quite frankly, some courage for today. Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Sharona.
So, all of these things that's completely factual. And seeing how the SCOTUS has supported this effort of absolute chaos, a banana republic of America, is, it's disappointing. I don't know what to say. I do not know what to say. I was speaking with one of the major contributors for the Amicus Brief regarding the birthright citizenship before we came on today, just to kind of figure out what happened, like what is going on. And I was directed to take a look at Clarence Thomas's dissent about the birthright citizenship. Okay, so I want to just kind of give this to you in a nutshell. So obviously, the SCOTUS voted that President Trump's executive order surrounding birthright citizenship cannot be enforced. Okay, they are saying that illegals have the right to come to America, give birth to their children so that they become anchor babies, right? they become citizens, and then they can go back to wherever they were from. Now, I just want to tell you a real life story. I lived in Silt, Colorado, and in Silt, Colorado, there's a very high Mexican population from Mexico and Central America, different places there. They don't get along, by the way. They all fight, whatever. They all come to this town where I was at because Colorado was a sanctuary state. Remember that. If you're in a sanctuary state, you get to, as an illegal, get put on insurance, or excuse me, on Medicaid. You get your hospital taken care of. You get on welfare right away. Nobody can prevent you from having any of the social services because we are a free state. You can come in and you can do whatever you want there, whatever you want. You have more rights than the actual citizens of Colorado if you are there illegally. So what would they do? I literally watched this in real time. I had personal encounters, was told directly to my face, saw the young women who were coming in from Mexico to get on welfare about a month before they're due, have their babies, stay for a month. Welfare did not drop, by the way. It's not like they canceled their social services. So who was getting those? I have no idea. And then they would go back with their baby, was now a US citizen, back to Mexico or wherever they were from in Central America. Watched it over and over and over. One particular young lady, 4 times I got to see over that span of her coming back, having a baby, going home, and taking full advantage of Colorado's generosity, America's generosity. Okay, that is a fact. It's a reality. It is what these illegals are doing. It's what they do. And it's just a fact. So here's the thing. Justice Clarence Thomas weighs in on this because he is saying 14th Amendment was never meant to apply to foreigners. The 14th Amendment, this is what he says. He says about the opinion that was actually ruled on. He says, that opinion I do not believe will stand the test of time. He is the longest serving conservative on the bench, obviously. But he says this actually was regarding number one, the ruling greatly to the dignity and glory of American citizenship. The opinion that was established devalues that citizenship. He argued that the focus was heavily on race in the interpretation of the term domicile, which is not mentioned in the 14th Amendment at all. Not in there. Not mentioned in the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, but has been historically understood to mean a person's primary and permanent legal home, where you live. The Citizenship Clause was consistently interpreted not to apply to the children of foreign, listen to this, not to apply to the children of foreign temporary visitors who were by definition not domiciled, living permanently in the United States. No, Thomas reasoned, regardless of administration or party policy, the federal government for decades after ratification of the 14th Amendment regularly denied claims to citizenship by children who were born in the United States but did not domicile here. He argues that the majority got its history wrong when it concluded that the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof should be understood in the context of the feudal principle of allegiance in English common law, which was then codified as not subject to any foreign power in the Civil Rights Act. He also makes the very stark contrast here that the 14th Amendment was only intended for slaves and their descendants. Why Black America is not up in arms today over the application of an amendment that was designed for them to give them federal citizenship and devalue it, as Clarence Thomas says, to just be any schmo Joe off the street who just travels through our southern border, doesn't go through any process, doesn't come here illegal, doesn't respect the laws of our land, and give that gift to them. Why is Black America not up in arms today? Not to mention, just from the beginning, that the 14th Amendment was never properly ratified. It shouldn't even be a part of the Constitution because the South never even had a chance to vote on it. They never voted on it. It was not properly ratified. The majority, 26 states or more, did not confirm ratification of the 14th Amendment. But what ended up happening was that too many laws were being based off the 14th Amendment. They called it the Barnacle Theory, that too many laws had been added based off the 14th Amendment, so they just couldn't go back. They just couldn't go back and revisit it. And what it essentially did, you guys, what the 14th Amendment really did was it basically made us all federal slaves. It hasn't given us freedom. It didn't give us more freedom. It made us all subject to the federal government. So here we have, but just kind of going back to if I was like fully in support of the 14th Amendment, and it is what it is what people think that it is based on the particle theory. If I was a Black American today, I would be furious. Especially if I was in a former slave family, I would be furious today. I would be furious to see that what was given to me and my ancestors to make sure that I could live in this country with all of the rights afforded to every other citizen who domiciled, lived here permanently, was just given to a Joe Schmo crossing the southern border 5 minutes ago. I'd be furious. I just get so confused by the left. More, I get so confused by Justice Roberts and Judge Amy Coney Barrett. I'm so confused by them. There's no way from the report, from the conversation I had prior to getting on today, that they had time to read Justice Clarence Thomas's dissent. There's no way they had time to read it and to consider it. And he's the Black man on the court. He's the one who was personally affected by the 14th Amendment. But we don't need to hear from him because he's a conservative. The opinion of the person I was speaking with is that Justice Roberts just makes all these crazy harebrained decisions because he's trying so hard to distance himself and prove that he's not in the pocket of Donald Trump. Can you imagine? You're making your decisions based off of I'm not friends with Donald Trump. He has made so many erroneous judgments over the American people over the last few years where we've all just scratched our head and been like, what was that about? His attempt to distance himself from President Trump has completely clouded his decision making. It's just disappointing. Also, it's believed that they didn't actually read the entire amicus brief. That's allegedly. So the court today takes the extraordinary step of holding factually unconstitutional the president's order excluding from citizenship the children of foreign temporary visitors and illegal aliens. Judge Thomas wrote, in doing so, the court adds to the sad history of the 14th Amendment, which was designed and understood to secure equal rights for the freed Blacks, but has instead been repurposed for political projects that the Reconstruction Congress did not support. Beautifully stated. It's going to be worth going back. I have not read the full dispute yet, or the full his full statement yet, dissent, excuse me. Please go back and read it. Just Google it in, pull it up, and read it. This man is worth reading. There's people who are fighting really hard to secure something in this country, and Judge Clarence Thomas is one of those. What he has been put through to defend the God-given protections of our Constitution to the American people is absolutely unbelievable. And he'll probably never write a book about it because it's just not that kind of guy. But remember how the left went after his wife during the Biden era. Do you remember that? How they went after her, investigating her nonstop, trying to criminalize her because they were trying to get to Judge Thomas. These people are sick. They are at best, they're sick. At worst, they've been bribed, and they believe that to be of more value than this incredible position and opportunity they were given to secure the rights and protections of the American people. And it's just disturbing. Let's go to the voting issue that they just ruled on. SCOTUS, here's what is boggling my brain. People's argument about the SAVE Act right now is, oh, it might empower the federal government too much. Okay, well, SCOTUS just became the entire arm of elections now, ruling that everyone in the country can keep voting after election day. Just keep voting. We say it. You guys can just keep voting. I'm sorry. One arm of the executive branch, guys. No, of the government branch. No, the judicial branch does not get to decide for the entire country. Just like the executive branch doesn't get to decide for the entire country. There are supposed to be checks and balances here. Rand Paul is submitting an amendment that he is hoping that the Congress is going to pass immediately to overcome what has just happened here. I think via the anchor baby law. But I mean, the voting application is insanity. This is what we've been talking about. We've been talking about how they are taking liberties by continuing to count ballots days, weeks, months. I mean, producer Lauber said it great on the 11 o'clock show today. If you missed it, go back and watch it. you're going to have elections for a year. Or they're just going to decide they're not going to put him in office. You know, if you're in a blue state, they're like, oh, you know, well, we couldn't find the votes to secure the Republican. I don't know. We're not going to certify it. This is just really unbelievable by the SCOTUS. What business do they have deciding whether or not you can keep counting ballots after election day is over? How is that their authority at all? How? For the longest time, just keep in mind, they wouldn't even rule on parent rights until they were finally forced to do so. They wouldn't rule on whether or not boys can be in girls' sports until finally they were forced to do so. And good on them. They did rule correctly. Boys do not have the right to be in girls' sports. That ruling came down this week. We're super glad. We're super grateful. That is an obvious common sense thing. But this whole thing about you can just keep voting forever or counting votes forever and ever, I don't, who gave them the authority to rule on that? Like what business is it of yours? This is where the states are going to have to say, it's not up to you. It's not up to you. The states have more power than the federal government. And I mean, we've seen Colorado use it against President Trump. Unabashedly, unashamedly, they've done it. They've exercised their rights as a state with more power than the federal government. And I mean, you know, gosh, good for them. I hate what they're doing it for, but they are in the right in that capacity. The states need to stand up to an abusive SCOTUS that is making decisions that are none of their business. That's one they should have shelved. That's one they should have said, we're not dealing with this, kick it back to the states. But they didn't. And I just wonder why. So, with the passing of anchor babies, they are allowing for explosive voter ballot fraud. Because as you've heard these leftist candidates say, we just need more of our people to get over here so that they can cast ballots. More of our people who are not here illegally come to America so they can cast ballots for us. You've heard them say it over and over. I go on my X, it's all posted there. Well, now they're just going to keep birthing them. And guess what? We're looking at about 250,000 anchor babies a year. Illegal parents, but the babies are legal. This is insanity. This is how you destroy a country. So I got nothing happy for you today. The only thing I can say happy is, you know, you're the X factor. And there's always God. He also is the X factor. I believe that he has shed his grace on this country. And friends, I mean, this is where the rubber hits the road. Like, these people aren't standing on truth. They're not standing soundly for what's right. And they're certainly not thinking of the next 250 years of America. Can you imagine the transformation based on these SCOTUS rulings? What on earth? I don't know. If anybody has any suggestions, please let us know what just happened. If you have some idea, if you know something we don't know about why Judge Barrett and Judge Roberts would rule this way, in total opposition to reality and to the law, by the way, in the majority of states, I would sure be open to hearing that. So, all right, we have run over a little bit today. You guys, thank you for being with us on America's Mom. We're going to be back with you on Friday, and we're going to be talking Ukraine. And it's obviously been coming back into the headlines again recently, which I'm very glad for, not for a good reason, for the reason we've been warning about. There is so much deception happening over Ukraine. And my personal experience a couple of weeks ago of watching these congressmen and US senators fly over there, I don't even know why they're there. But all I know is when they got back, billions more were sent over to Ukraine. I can only imagine 10% for the big guy. I can only imagine. But we're going to talk about that on Friday with one of the foremost experts on Ukraine, who has been working there for the last 10 years, who's going to have a lot to share with us and how President Trump can correct course in Ukraine immediately to stabilize the area and potentially even really bring a real deal that can solve the issue between Russia and Ukraine. It's going to be an incredible interview. You do not want to miss it. That's going to be Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time. We're going to spend the whole hour with him. I'm going to wait to name that guest till we get all of our media put up about him. He is an absolute legend and very well known in Ukraine and here in the States. So you're going to love this conversation. And by the way, he's not in the pocket of anybody. we have background checked him thoroughly and deliberately for other reasons. So we're gonna have a great conversation on Friday. Guys, stay diligent, protect your own backyards, be the person you are waiting for. You are what your community needs. So stand up and stand strong. Remember, all that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good men and women like you to do absolutely nothing.